This is the All MLB Podcast, Episode 1. I'm here with co-host Jarek Bodlovic. My name's Aven Nurse. Jarek, how are we doing today?
I'm doing well, Evan. I'm excited to be here, man. We've been talking about this for a while and something I've been looking forward to. So I'm excited for us to finally start.
Oh, yeah.
But we're gonna start off with just a little bit about ourselves. I've been playing baseball for the entirety of my 20 years, basically, and now I've hopped over to coaching. So baseball is just a big passion of mine. I've been a St. Louis Cardinals fan since day one, so try to take the bias out of it as much as I can. But that's a little bit about me.
Yep. I'm a college pitcher right now. Planning on providing insight sort of thing where you can see the game through a player's lens, through a pitcher's perspective. Dodgers fan, I'll keep the bias out as best I can as well.
We'll try with
And
that one.
just, I think one of the big things about our podcast is we're looking forward to give an insight of like through the player's perspective as we both played a lot of baseball in our lives.
Yeah, and something a little unique that not every podcast is going to have is you've been through injuries, I've been through Tommy John, so I can kind of, there's a lot of pitchers going through Tommy John right now in the MLB. It's kind of plaguing our sport, so we can walk you through kind of what they might actually be doing in their rehab process. So a little behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure we're going to talk more about sort of that whole side of things, but it's not super the narrative of today's episode, I don't think.
No, we got some other stuff planned.
Oh yeah, no, and we just both of us we love talking about baseball. Um, all of our discussions we always end up just having great convos about baseball. So we decided why not just record it, and so other people can learn for what we're talking about.
Yeah, even the other night when we were playing video games, the only thing we were talking about was baseball in this podcast. So it's going to be fun to get it going.
It's going to be a great time. We got a lot of exciting stuff that we're excited to share with you guys listening, and we hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, like you were saying, we got a lot of great stuff planned, but we're going to keep it pretty simple for today. Kind of recap what's happened so far this offseason, and in the future episodes, we'll get into some more exciting offseason content.
Oh yeah. So I think first thing that we have planned to do is we're going to talk about who received qualifying offers between so far this winter.
Yeah, I'll just break it down for those of you that don't know what a qualifying offer is. So at the end of the season, a team can issue a qualifying offer to players. The qualifying offer is $20.3 million for one season. And if a player is signed who received a qualifying offer, the team that loses the player gets a draft pick from the team that signed him. So there's a little bit of risk to reward. And that draft pick is kind of determined on where you're at in the league. So like if you're the Mets with a really high payroll, your draft pick is going to be in the later rounds. But if you're one of those teams that gets revenue sharing, you're going to get a higher pick, so like just right after the competitive B round. So right about pick or round number 2.
So we can just go through like which players. I can just rattle off what players received qualifying offers this winter so far, and then if we want to, we can talk about a little more detail into each one.
Yeah.
So qualifying offer players so far have been Shohei Ohtani, Matt Chapman, Cody Bellinger, Blake Snell, Josh Hader, Aaron Nola, and Sonny Gray. Is there a specific one you want to start with there?
Not as many guys as I thought there was going to be. I feel like the crop may be a little smaller this year, but they did raise the money, so that could be a factor into it. Obviously the big one is going to be Ohtani. We all know he's not going to be taking that one. He's going to be seeking $500,000 somewhere.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like anybody in this crop personally is going to take it. If I had to pick one right now that I could maybe see taking the deal, is Matt Chapman. He started off the year really, really hot, but he definitely cooled down. So if I had to pick one, I would say maybe he takes it.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Like he had a down year for sure this year. I have him as striking out nearly 3 times for every walk, which is pretty bad. Especially
Yeah.
like I mean he's always struck out a lot, but that's bad for him. Power's down, 17 home runs is all. So I could see him maybe taking it, but I doubt it.
Yeah, a little 1 year prove it deal. I mean, he's definitely a glove first kind of guy. So his glove solely could get him a pretty good length contract, maybe 5 years. But as far as the pitchers goes, I mean, I think all those guys are going to be seeking a long-term deal just because the pitcher market isn't super deep this year. So I think they're going to have an opportunity to get a pretty good bag.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just a note for the Ohtani deal, You said 500,000. It's 500,000,000. I know you misspoke. You know
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, you're right. A
Yep.
little over 500 million.
Yeah.
But
And with Shohei Ohtani, he's just, I mean, unless you've been living under a rock, you know who Shohei Ohtani is. Like,
dude,
sensational player.
I
Out
was
of,
just watching the best clip of the season when he pitched to Trout in the World Baseball Classic.
oh, yeah.
That's got to be one of the best baseball moments of all time. But I think we're also going to talk about some of the players that didn't receive qualifying offers because that might be a little bit more interesting than the players that did, because there are some big names out there as well. But I can run you through those real quick. That'll be Michael Brantley, Clayton Kershaw, JD Martinez, Rhys Hoskins, Teoscar Hernandez, Jorge Soler, Kyle Gibson, and Mitch Garver.
Yeah, anything to add to that?
No. There's obviously quite a few more, but those are kind of the bigger names that potentially could have got one but didn't end up receiving one. Is there any that you thought might have got a qualifying offer that didn't?
I mean, out of those guys, to be honest, I was a little surprised that Rhys Hoskins didn't get one because I doubt like he's gonna come back and be a dog. I'm a little
Sure.
surprised there. But outside of that, I mean, it makes sense pretty much
Yeah,
everyone
with
else.
the Phillies saying that Harper is going to solely play first base, it kind of makes sense that they're moving on from Rhys Hoskins just because they got Schwarber in the DH. I kind of thought Harper might go back to the outfield just because he's a pretty good defender out there, and Rhys is kind of he seems like a Philly. He fits
Exactly.
that group well. Another one that surprised me is JD Martinez. I thought his power was back up last year. A little bit. I know it's down from his Boston years, but it was back up a little bit, and I know they're trying to maybe save room for some Ohtani action. So I can see it on both ways.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and I think that's a lot of what these teams are doing right now is trying to clear space for Ohtani. I mean, about any team that could afford them are clearing space right now, just trying to get that big contract.
Definitely. And if you look at all these guys, I mean, they're all pretty notable teams. Like, the Mariners have been rumored to Ohtani, and Teoscar is on the Mariners, and Mitch Garver, the Rangers. People could see him going to the Rangers as well. So a lot of people clearing space because 20 million is a lot of payroll.
Exactly. Yeah. We kind of jumped off of it, but I'd kind of like us to go back just if we want to break down players that did receive qualifying offers a little more, because we talked about Shohei, we talked about Chapman, but some of these guys definitely deserve a little more talking about than
Definitely.
just a little rough over.
Yeah.
What do you think about Cody Bellinger? What do you think his ceiling is on a contract, that sort of thing?
Dude, I've seen some crazy, crazy predictions, like 12 years, almost 300 million, and there's just no shot. I do see him getting a pretty good amount of money though. I expect it to be under 200 million, but I could see him pushing about 160, 170 million. But there's definitely no shot he's taking that qualifying offer. I mean, he already took that prove it deal with the Cubs, and he definitely proved it. So
Exactly. No, I mean, I'm a Dodger fan, and nothing got me happier than seeing Bellinger back, kind of closer to what you would expect out of a Cody Bellinger. I mean, he's not in his MVP days, and I don't know if we'll ever see MVP Bellinger again. But he slashed 307, 356, and 525, which just monster numbers. And you love to see that from Cody after having 2 down years. My question is, do you think this was more of a new scenery, or did he finally get healthy?
it's a good question. I think it could be a little bit of both. I think his bat plays well in Wrigley. Especially with the injury, I think he might have lost a little bit of power, and he might be a little bit more of a gap to gap guy. Now, obviously, he still hit 20 plus bombs, but I think his bat plays well there. So I think it could have been just a little bit more on the change of scenery side. I mean, he was struggling in LA, and once you kind of fall in that rut, it's a little hard to get out of it, especially after 2 straight years of being down. But I mean, it's hard not to root for that guy, even if you're not a Dodgers fan. So
Exactly. It's just if for those listening, if you haven't seen a Cody Bellinger home run, just go watch clips of it because there's something special about when he connects with the ball. It's one of those swings you love to see, and baseball's better when Bellinger's better.
exactly. And for those of you out there, I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably play MLB The Show. And sometimes you just fall in love with the guy because his swing is so sweet in the game and it's so sweet in real life. And so I've been in love with Bellinger, not literally, but I love that guy. So,
He's a great dude. I mean, with you though as well on the
but
contract talks, I would be shocked if he got a real long-term contract. I could see him being up there on sort of annual payment, but it'd be hard for me as a GM to give him a long-term contract.
how many years do you think?
I mean, for me, I wouldn't give him anything more than 7.
More than 7. And I think he could be one of those guys that has a pretty unique contract where it's heavily incentivized by how he does. Just because I mean it was 1 year, so you don't know what. I mean, are you gonna get that Bellinger or are you gonna get the previous year Bellinger? So
Exactly. Yeah.
it could be pretty incentivized bonuses, but maybe a few player options here and there. But either way, you're getting an elite glove in center field, and he plays a really nice first base as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And just an elite defender. Like you're getting both sides of the ball there for sure.
Definitely. And then
Um,
moving over to Blake Snell,
yeah,
a
I agree.
little bit of an interesting pitcher. I believe he's been in the league for 8 years. 2 of those years, he's going to win the Cy Young. He's going to win it this year, and he won it when 1 year with he was in Tampa. The other 6 years, though, not super good.
Dude, Blake Snell is an anomaly for pitching. Just
No doubt.
you look at him, he allows so many runners. It's like
Yeah, I
he
mean, he led
opens
the league
guys
in
up.
walks per nine.
He's got 5 walks per 9, but he's got like 12 Ks per 9, and he just refuses to allow runs to score.
It's impressive. I remember watching this entire year. You're waiting for him to have a blow up start because he walks the bases loaded and he gets out of it. So you're just like, he's going to give up 10 in one of these innings, but he never did. And
Yeah.
it was really impressive, even though he did it in a weird way.
I don't even, I mean, I guess impressive is one way to say it. I just watching him it's a
It
roller
can be
coaster.
frustrating.
It's a roller
Yeah,
coaster.
definitely. And as far as contract goes, I don't want to get too much into it because we're going to do a whole offseason prediction, but it's a unique one because obviously pitcher, there's a lot of risk. Like we saw it with the Yankees in last offseason, but I don't know what type of deal he's going to get. I think he'll get paid pretty well, but I don't think he'll have the highest annual value out of all the pitchers we're seeing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just think you see that sort of thing where he's letting runners on. It's definitely going to hurt him just because it's not very trustworthy when you have runners on all the time. It just feels like something bad's about to happen all the time when he's pitching, but it never does somehow.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely going to get paid for his performance last year, but you do have to take into account those previous few years.
Sure.
And he's not a guy that throws a lot of innings. I mean, that's kind of always been the thing about him. I don't want to stereotype him like that, but he is that consistent, like 4 or 5 inning type of guy.
Absolutely. Yeah. If we want to move on to Josh Hader, he's also expected to decline his qualifying offer. Just an elite closer, however, though.
He's going to get paid, and it's arguably going to be more. Did he get more, or will he get more than Edwin Diaz received from the Mets? Because when he's on, he is arguably the best closer. Really deceptive lefty, throws hard. There's pretty hard to hit against.
Yeah, and it was just really good to see him after last year. He had a lot of trouble just kind of settling in. It seemed like last year when he got traded, he
Really, really weird trade.
Yeah, and this year he's kind of back to that sort of Josh Hader that we kind of grew to expect.
Yeah, and I don't know if you have his stats pulled up, and I can pull them up real quick, but I believe he had a sub 2 or a low 1 ZRA again.
He was a 1.28. Yeah,
1.28. Yeah, so he was absolutely dominant again. Whoever gets him getting a pretty locked down closer. And I know there's going to be a few teams vying for his services this year.
exactly. No, and I'm excited to see that one because Hader's a pitcher that I really enjoy watching.
Another one that kind of surprised me, Mitch Garver. I know it's an interesting spot for the Rangers, but he was a pretty big player for them this year in the DH. I mean, he helped them win a World Series. He helped them get there. So I kind of thought they might be interested in bringing him back. But 20 mil for a backup catcher when they have Jonah Heim and 20 mil for a DH is a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, he had a 2.1 WAR this year too, which I mean, it's pretty solid. Like I think it's the best out of the notable players that didn't receive qualifying offers. I mean, I don't look at pitcher WAR too much because pitcher WAR is inflated, but
Pitcher WAR is a weird one.
yeah, yeah, out of the hitters, I think he's the best in terms of WAR. So he was a bit of an odd one for sure. Do we want to talk about Clayton Kershaw a little bit? I know I'm a Dodger fan. I like gravitating towards him a little bit, but it it'll be interesting with his surgery, I think, to see what happens with his contract.
Yeah, I definitely think he'll play again. And I don't know why a few years ago, he didn't sign a long-term deal with the Dodgers. He's always been that 1 year, 17 mil kind of guy. And I guess it's just because he's always considering maybe retirement every year. But I mean, he's pretty consistent in getting that 1 year, 20 mil deal. So I definitely think he'll be back. I guess it's the question of will it be with the Dodgers or will he finally move to the hometown Rangers? Because it's been out there for a few years, but he's never done it.
I I can't imagine him playing for another team at this point. It seems like he wants to be a Dodger for life. That's just kind of seems like that's what he's talked about. And he definitely, like he said, he wants to plan to return in the summer. So he'll miss a chunk of the season, but I think there's no doubt that he'll be back.
No, definitely. He'll be back. I'm not sure how much time he's gonna miss, but I think he'll be a big part because I know the Dodgers do need some pitching, so I don't think they're gonna let him get away.
Exactly. Yeah. And Dodgers are coming up with some newer prospect pitching, but Kershaw's definitely one that's needed there just to kind of help those young guys out too.
Yeah, he's the veteran presence they need. I know they're getting Bueller back, and I don't even want to talk about Julio Urias. Who knows what's going on with that guy? So we'll leave him alone. But Bueller's back. That'll be big. Kershaw will be there. I think Tony Gonsolin's going to be back. So you got those three guys leading the youngins. So Bobby Miller is really exciting.
Bobby Miller's super exciting, and I'm super excited to see Bueller again too, because Bueller is just a guy that's super fun to watch too.
Dodgers should think about locking Bueller up. I believe he's a free agent after next year. So one more year of him.
Yeah, I think that's going to be something that's pretty high on the Dodgers priority list is locking him up a little bit more. Is there any other players that you specifically want to talk about out of those
No,
guys?
I think the other pit. I know we touched on Blake Snell, but looking at Aaron Nola and Sonny Gray, I don't see either of them taking it. They both had really good seasons. So they're going to seek a longer term contract in the offseason. So qualifying offer is probably not even in consideration for them.
Exactly. No, and Nola specifically is just an absolute workhorse. I think like that dude's just going to be there every day and show up and pitch for you. Like
No, he hasn't been hurt in a long time. He's pretty close to 200 innings every year. I know he had a little bit higher ERA than normal, but he is one of those guys that has been Cy Young votes in the past and typically close to a 3-year ERA. So definitely a guy most teams are going to want just because he's so dependable being on the field.
yeah. What type of contract do you think Sonny Gray is going to get being 34 years old?
So I've heard some rumors that he wants to stay close to home, and I heard that he's kind of wanting to win, but he's also not interested in playing forever. He's not one of those guys that I think is going to pitch into his 40s like Verlander and Scherzer. So I'm seeing probably a 3-year deal. That would be my guess. Take him into his 37 season. The AAV, it's probably going to be a little bit more than that qualifying offer. So, maybe 3 years, like 66 million, something along those lines, 22 mil a year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I could see him stretching it to a 4-year just because he's had such a great season this year. It's hard to say that he wants to be done in 3 years, but I could see a 3 or a 4 for sure.
Definitely. His breaking balls are pretty elite. I mean, his sweeper was absolutely disgusting.
He spins them at him. Like
He spins them, and his fastball's sneaky because of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I could
do
see
you
that
know what he
3 years.
sits fastball wise roughly?
I think he's like 93, 94.
Yeah.
He's not blowing you away, but when he's mostly throwing you spinners, it looks faster than it is.
Exactly. No, I mean, that's exactly what I have to do because I don't throw hard at all. And he just spins it, and he's a fun one to watch as well, just as a pitcher.
So we're gonna move on from some of those guys. Is there anybody else that didn't receive a qualifying offer that you wanted to talk about?
I don't think so. I mean, I think big guys that we want to talk about now is possibly just other notable players that are either declining player options or had the team option decline. If we want to get into those guys.
Yeah, we can move over to those guys.
Yeah.
You want to run us through those guys, Aven?
Yeah. So Hector Neris declines his player option. Seth Lugo declined his $7.5 million player option. And Joey Votto had the Reds decline his $20 million club option.
Joey Votto is sad.
Yeah.
As a Cardinals fan, he's been tormenting me my entire life, basically. But he was going to get, what, 20 million or something? And the Reds have such a crowded infield, there was no way they could bring him back for that much money. I could definitely see him returning on a lower annual value deal. Something just as a more of like a mentorship role, but they can't guarantee him every day ABs, so it makes sense letting him go.
No, exactly. I mean, it hurt seeing that news, but when you look at it from the team's perspective, it makes total sense. Like Joey Votto just isn't worth 20 million anymore. He had a negative 0.1 WAR, batted 202, 314, 433 for a slash line. I'm kind of wondering if Votto even will be back, to be honest, right now.
Yeah, I see him coming back for one more year, just kind of on one of those retirement tours.
Well, farewell tour.
It's really sad to say, but I mean, his production's not there, and he even struggled in his AAA rehab assignments. I don't know if he's working through something on his swing, but he's just not the same.
Exactly. No, he's an aging player, and it just sucks to see those type of guys go.
Another guy, so Marcus Stroman and Eduardo Rodriguez both opted out of their deals.
That's right.
Both two pitchers trying to seek a little bit extra money just because of that weaker free agent pitching class. I'm not sure what they're gonna get. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on those guys?
Not necessarily specifically, no. I know I think he's been connected with the Dodgers a little bit, but that's about really all I got there.
Yeah, Stroman started off really strong. I know he didn't end the way he wanted to. I know he dealt with a little bit of injuries in the middle of the season. But it does make sense that he's trying to get a few more years, just because I believe he was on his last year of a 3-year deal that he signed with the Cubs.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want to talk about Hector Neris or Seth Lugo very much?
Hector Neris makes sense. I think a good reliever on the market. He's going to get a little bit of money somewhere else. But Seth Lugo is an interesting name to watch out for. I think he's going to get a lot of attention in this offseason. He's not that number one, but he had a good season this year. And so I think he could be a number 3 or number 4 for a team. And he's not going to get a super large contract. So I think there will be a lot of teams vying for his services.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I mean, both of these guys, honestly, I have Hector Neris possibly overperforming sort of thing in my own notes. That was something I noted down. But he's not slowing down at all. And he's about to be 35. That's kind of towards the end of peak, but he seems to be doing fine. And then Seth Lugo, I was a little surprised by the decline of the player option there on him.
Yeah, I mean, well, the Padres had to take out a loan to pay their players, so they declined quite a few guys, and unfortunately, Matt Carpenter opted into his $5.5 million, so they still got to pay him. Yeah. Even though he hit sub 200, something like that this year, and didn't provide too much for him, so they had to find ways to clear some money.
Yeah. I think something that we have a little bit of news for the offseason is the Tigers trade, if we want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, Mark Canha being traded from the Brewers to the Tigers for a minor league reliever. Anytime the Brewers go after a reliever, he's probably going to be good just because they've kind of turned into a little bit of a reliever factory. So interesting trade, saved the Brewers a good amount of money because he had a player option for $11 million or a buyout of I believe about $2 million. So either way, they're saving some money.
Yeah, for sure. And Canha has a good depth sort of offensive weapon, adds a little bit to the infield there too. And then Blake Holub, who's the prospect they picked up. This year he had some time in Double A and High A. He had a really good K to walk ratio, but I mean, for the most part, I haven't seen him listed as a top prospect really.
No, and that's just probably because of his reliever risk. He's not a starter, so it's going to be hard to get him on those top prospect lists. But I could see the Brewers doing some exciting stuff with him. And Mark Canha, like you were saying, I mean, he hasn't had an OPS plus below 100 since 2017. So he's super serviceable out there in the outfield. So it's a great addition for that Tigers that have a pretty young outfield out there.
Yeah, Um,
Little bit more news that just came out today. Joe Espada is rumored to be the new manager for the Astros. They have a press conference for tomorrow, Monday morning, where he's expected to be announced. So a lot of managers getting hired this offseason.
yeah, for sure. If we wanted to go into managers, we can. Joe Espada, that was cool that they did from within the program already, because that just creates continuity within the clubhouse. Guys are gonna like that a lot. And everything I've seen on Espada is that just overall he's a clubhouse presence. Guys love him.
No, it seems like everybody loves him. I mean, he's been there since 2018. So he's been through a lot. Obviously he's been there for a title, so he knows the group of guys. So I think he's going to carry over what Dusty did really well.
Exactly, and he's also worked under AJ Hinch, so he's seen both from the two championship winning managers. So he knows how to win, and he just needs to implement it now.
Quite a few more managers. We have Stephen Vogt managing the Guardians now, longtime MLB catcher. I know he spent last year as the bullpen coach for the Seattle Mariners. So it's cool to see him getting his first shot.
Yeah, and they get him on a 3-year contract. Both him and Carlos Mendoza, I'm really excited about. Both first-year managers on 3-year deals. It'll be really interesting to see what both of them can do. Vought's another dude that's a clubhouse presence. Like, the guys are going to respect the shit out of him, and he's just going to do a really good job there, I think.
Definitely. And he's one of those guys that you can tell, like, during his playing career, he's going to be a manager just because everybody respects him and he's a pretty smart, like, baseball IQ guy. So,
yeah. No, I think
I
saw a quote on him too of like back when he was a player in it's like 2015. One of his managers said that's a for sure manager in his future, sort of thing.
Definitely. And speaking of managers, we got Ron Washington. He hasn't managed since I believe it was 2014 when he was with Texas, but he was hired by the Angels, so he's getting another chance to make a run for a championship as a manager.
Yeah, he gets a 2-year contract there. It's the 4th Angels manager in the last 5 years, so
yeah, both of them and the Mets are the Mets and the Angels are flying through managers.
Yeah.
Okay, so now the big one, the biggest managerial signing in history. David Ross out, Craig Counsell in.
Yeah, this one shocked me, to be honest. It was pretty surprising to see that one.
No, I don't think anybody expected him to go to a team that already had a manager. I think a lot of people were expecting him to go to the Mets.
Yeah,
I don't think
we're
expecting the cut.
Sure. Yeah,
no, you definitely. I mean, when Ken Rosenthal was putting out those reports, I was in class. It was early in the morning. It was like, Craig Counsell's going to sign today. Everybody's like, okay, he's with the Mets. And then the Mets announced they're signing. And then people are like, well, where is he going to go now? And then Ken Rosenthal was talking about how he's going to go to a team that already has a manager. And that's when the speculation started flying. So that one really surprised me. I didn't expect it to be Chicago. So I know David Ross has a pretty strong relationship there. He was there when they won the World Series in 2016. So he's been a big part of that city. So I'm sure there might be a little bit of bad blood now. I don't know if David Ross expected that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I just can't imagine David Ross being ready for that one. Like, that one probably came as a little bit of a stomach punch, but it's just kind of surprising too. 5 years, 40 million, being the biggest contract per year sort of salary of a manager ever. Last one was $7.5 million a year with Joe Torre for when he won the 4 championships in 5 years for the Yankees, and so he beats that. And it's just kind of like, my question to you, is that an overpay? Do you think that's an overpay?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, Joe Torre deserved the money. Him and Bruce Bochy are the 2 best modern day managers, right? With their 4 championships. I think there's only 4 ever in MLB with 4 or more, and only 2 in the modern eras. Joe Torre and Bruce Bochy. Everybody says Craig Counsell's a great manager. I mean, he says he gets everything out of their players, and I mean, that Brewers pitching staff did really well last year, and he managed that bullpen really well. But he hasn't won anything.
Exactly.
Right?
He hasn't won.
I mean, he's got a few division titles, but as a manager, I don't know if he's ever made it past the first or the second round in the playoffs.
Exactly. And that's kind of my sort of thought too, is 8 million a year does seem like a lot for someone who hasn't even won a chip.
Exactly. I mean, if you're comparing it to relievers, I mean, there's not a lot of relievers that make 8 million. Some of the top end relievers make that per year. So it's
Yeah.
like, would you have one of those locked? I mean, that's the question: is Craig Counsell as valuable as one of those lockdown relievers?
No, and I think I saw that too, where the Cubs are trying to think of the manager spot as a sort of as another player spot where you want to pay that player well.
I mean, it makes sense if if he has the ability to manage that bullpen and get everything he can out. Because I think the Cubs are going to make some moves this offseason. I don't know if they're going to be investing in the bullpen and the pitching as much. I think they have quite a few arms that are going to stick around. So I think they're going to be spending more on the bats. So I think it's going to be important for him to manage that bullpen well this year.
For sure. Yeah. Another big idea though is, does this set the precedence for managers going forward? Is that sort of the expectation to get tons of money like that?
I can't see it.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
just there's too many teams out there that I don't think can afford to give 8 million a year to a manager. Granted, like there are teams out there, the higher end teams, yes, but that's a lot of money. I don't. The Rays would never do that. The A's would never do that, right? And like the Cardinals have been rumored. So Ollie has 1 year left, and there's a lot of rumors that Yadier Molina is going to join the coaching staff, and everybody's assuming that once Ollie's out, it's going to be Yadi that manages. If he comes to the staff, that's not a for sure thing yet, but there's no shot the Cardinals will give Yadi, right, even close to that.
yeah, no, I mean, I don't see managers starting to get 8 million $8 million per year, but I definitely see managers demanding more money going forward. Um, as of August, 6 managers were getting paid less than a million per year, and 15 managers were earning less than 1.75 million each year. Which, when you're thinking about the sort of magnitude of money in the MLB for player contracts, that just seems incredibly low to me.
Definitely. I do feel like the money for managers isn't going to increase, but I still see it being hard that more managers are going to get more than 5 mil a year. Like I kind of feel like that's kind of the tops. Like 5 mil seems like a lot. I mean, to us, that's a lot of money, but like to those MLB owners, it's pretty much pocket change at that point. So I don't see it, everybody going out there and topping his contract per se, but I do think he raises the bar a little bit, and we'll see a lot of those managers climb to the 2, 3, 4 million range.
Exactly. No, I don't think anyone is going to touch that 8 million for a while, but I can see it being more common that managers get closer to 3 and 4 per year, sort of thing. Because I was looking at it, several college coaches are making more than most MLB managers right now too. There's like 10 coaches.
Well, yeah, especially down in the SEC, some of those guys get big money.
Those
I mean,
guys
you
get
see
a ton of
this, it's a
money.
little off topic, but you see the guy for Texas, $76 million buyout.
Oh, I did see that. You're right. Yeah.
Just a buyout. That's insane.
I'd take 76
So I definitely do think we'll see a little bit of a raise from MLB managers.
for sure. Yeah.
All right. Before we wrap it up, we got to give it to you, Nurse.
You got to get it in
Got
there.
this article. We have to. I mean, you're a big Dodgers fan, so I got 12 trade predictions for the 2023-2024 MLB offseason. I'm only going to give you one.
We're just
Okay,
doing
so this
one.
is from PR Walkoff.
Okay.
The Dodgers acquire Willie Adames, shortstop from the Brewers,
Yep.
and Corbin Burns.
Who are we giving up for that?
They didn't list that. I've seen some packages, and they're honestly pretty hefty.
Has to be
In the number of
prospects, right? All prospects.
definitely, I definitely think you probably consider. I mean, do you throw in like Diego Cartaya, or is it maybe one of those guys that's a little bit more blocked, like Bush? I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts? Would you take the trade?
I mean, it's hard to say without seeing what we're giving up there. Um, and fantasy, I'm a big Willie Adames guy. I have had him on my team almost every year for the last 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, not
He's
many
great.
shortstops are going to hit you close to 30 bombs a year. So
Exactly. No, he's great. But yeah, without seeing what we'd be giving up, it's really hard to comment on that.
I definitely think the Dodgers would do it. I think they have the prospect capital. And they're really good at developing prospects. And Corbin Burns is one of the more elite pitchers in baseball. So I
Burns is
think he would kind of
nice
solidify that rotation.
for sure. Yeah. No, I mean, it'd definitely be nice to add both of those players. We got a shortstop problem right now. I mean, Gavin Lux is going to be back, but it's kind of hard to see exactly if he's going to be as mobile as he was.
Right. I mean,
And
coming off an ACL tear, I believe.
exactly.
That's a tough one. And then,
It's very
I mean,
tough.
even in his career, he's mostly playing second. It hasn't really been since the minors that he played short. So he hasn't done it at the MLB level. And I know he's more than capable, but it's like you could just let him play with what he's familiar with and bring in another shortstop.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's going
Well,
to do it for our first episode here, though. Do you have anything else to add?
no, I think that's everything, guys. That was a pretty fun first episode. I know we're excited. So we're getting into it. We're still figuring things out, but hopefully you guys enjoyed.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have a lot of exciting topics we plan to cover this off season. And if you guys have any suggestions or ideas that you'd want us to discuss, let us know. And just make sure to follow us on the socials. We're at All MLB Pod. Any last thoughts, Jerk?
No, definitely comment anything that you have. We want to, interact, answer all the questions. That'll make things really fun. So that's all we have for the first one. But thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you next week.